everybody, and welcome back to Vbuzz. You're still here with myself, Sharita, and Shankari. Now, our first guest, lawyer turned actor Chacko Vadaketh, has a talent for bringing any character to life. Having caught the acting bug as an undergraduate, he since appeared on TV, film, and stage productions in Malaysia and internationally. You may have also heard his rich, smooth voice on commercials, documentaries, or maybe even an event or two that he's emceed. We find out more about his journey in entertainment as he joins us now. Welcome to Vbuzz, Chacko.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on board.
Well, it's going to be a very interesting interview today because you have, I was reading up about your journey as an actor. Just amazing. Now, Chacko, as a kid, were you always trying to act? You know, how were you as a child?
I was actually relatively reserved, actually. But we were sent to sort of speech and drama classes and things. And in my primary school, I went to a international school for primary, and they had drama and stuff like that. So I think that's when I first started getting the bug.
Did you ever had to, you know, perhaps cook up a story to your parents or a teacher, and you did it excellently? They bought the story. Did that ever happen? Using your acting skills
as a kid, I was like a very good boy. I think I've since changed dramatically.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So, Chacko, you mentioned when you started going for these drama classes at your school, that's kind of when you caught the acting bug. When in any other instances that you've really noticed that this is kind of something you knew you wanted to venture into?
I think it was something that I enjoyed. I never really thought of it as being a career. I think, you know, my father's in law and my mother's a pediatrician, and so I always thought I'd be a professional of some kind. But acting was a nice hobby, and they actually sent me to speech and drama classes back in the day, and there was this lovely old Englishman, Donald Davies, and he really, I think, taught me to love literature and drama, and you know, and performing as well. I think the art of delivering something well and entertainingly, and yet conveying the meaning effectively.
All right.
Very nice.
You know, we also understand that for 10 years you were actually a lawyer. You were practicing law. What was the turning point that you decided that perhaps acting could also make a viable career option?
Well, actually, I think the turning point was law was not something that I was like crazy to do. It seemed like the sensible thing, and I was reading law at Cambridge, where there was a lot of drama, lots of theatre societies, and each college would have its own drama society, and their university drama societies. So literally in the first week of term, you just went from audition to audition to audition, those who wanted to act. And I think it's there that I started thinking, actually, law may not be what I want to do, and it's acting. And I played Othello at Cambridge. And that was, I think, the turning point. I remember I think the last night, we had sellout houses in the Cambridge Playroom. It's quite a small theatre, but I had a lot of friends in the audience for the final night, including my sister came up with a lot of family friends from London, and they all brought like carnations. And when I took my curtain call as Othello, I was suddenly showered with red carnations. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do.
Isn't that the dream? We don't see much of that these days, do we?
Now, Othello is a very sought-after role. How was the audition process and everything getting to that point of actually landing the role?
It was, oh gosh, it's so long ago. But I think it was, you know, I'd already done a few roles. So I think this is my last year at Cambridge. So I'd already sort of made a little bit of a name for myself as an actor. And I think there was also the chemistry reads with Desdemona. And we had a lovely Desdemona. You know, she's classic sort of Shakespeare heroine, young and sort of wide-eyed and pale-skinned and stuff. And we connected really well. So I think that helped. Plus, you know, I could grow a beard, as you can see. It was a black beard at the time, but I think that also, you know, she was sort of very pale and white, and I was sort of brown. So I think the Othello, Desdemona contrast, we looked right for the role, and then hopefully we were able to deliver it as well.
Very nice. But, you know, after your time there in Cambridge, how did you get your break here locally?
So, you know, I think you were asking about the turning point. I think I sort of decided, okay, this is what I want to do. But then, you know, the sense I might as well finish my degree and then do the bar and then come back. But I think even when I was coming back holidays, I started connecting with theatre people here. So back in the day, there were societies like the Liberal Arts Society, the Selangor Philharmonic, sort of relics from the British colonial period. And I think pretty soon after I came back, I did The Millionaires, which was a Liberal Arts Society production directed by Chamkor Singhil. And I think that's when I started connecting with people here. And Joe Kukathas was in that. And I played a lawyer, so I think a lot of times I found that, you know, art imitates life, imitates art, because that was, I think, the first role, probably first major role I got here as a lawyer. And then in Singapore, when I started exploring options there, and they're saying, oh, there's nothing for you, and most of the roles are for, you know, Chinese roles in Singapore, since it's majority Chinese. And then suddenly there was a TV show. It's one of these family drama things, and there's like a murder trial going on, and they said, you know, and the character, the prosecutor, was actually a Chinese Henry or something. And then they said, but we can't find somebody to do it, and they're finding, you know, the long legal jargon difficult. And I said, well, actually, I'm a lawyer, and I'm still practicing, or at the brink of sort of leaving. So maybe I could try. So they said, okay, why don't you do it, and we'll make him Indian, and that's what they did. So I was in a couple of episodes.
Wow.
And that was sort of my break for Singapore.
Very nice.
Yeah, and did you continue on in Singapore and explore other options there as well?
Yes, I was back and forth. By then, I'd quit law. So that was like a point where I had to decide whether, you know, it just became difficult to practice law and do theatre on the side. And I don't know how I managed to do it for quite so long, but as demands became more in the legal world, and as I became more senior and, you know, was looking at possible partnership and things in my firm, then also theatre was more demanding, and people, it was becoming more professional. So we're having actors who are acting full time and who are able to rehearse in the day, in the mornings or in the afternoons. Whereas in the old days, everybody had day jobs, so you only rehearsed at nights or at weekends, and it took quite a long time. Whereas now, you know, the turnaround was really much faster.
Right.
So then I had to really choose. And so then, you know, once I quit law around 2000, then I started going to Singapore. I joined Fly Entertainment.
Yes. Speaking about your time in Singapore, you were actually part of a very popular role in a very popular Singapore sitcom called Mr. Kiasu, which was nominated for Best Comedy in Asian Television Awards, and you played Sabo Singh.
Yes.
Tell us about that character.
That was actually one of the highlights of, you know, it was wonderful being in a sitcom. I think working in sitcoms is so much fun because you're just laughing all the time and making people laugh, you know. And there's also, I think it's a nice link between theatre and TV, because often, you know, the theatre actor, you get the reward of performing live to an audience, getting feedback from the audience. But when you do TV, as you know, it's, you know, in a studio and there's no real audience, and you have to sort of create the energy and everything yourself. So, but in sitcoms, sometimes we would tape in front of an audience, so you get that audience reaction. But I think Sabo Singh, it was such a fun comedy, sort of larger than life. And, you know, you could be really silly and big and have fun, and it was fine. Whereas most other TV, it's like, pull back, Chacko, you're already big, you know, no need to get any bigger, sort of your presence.
Chacko, you've made a name for yourself in Malaysia and Singapore, but also in Hollywood. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? You know, you've acted in numerous projects over there in Hollywood.
Especially Entrapment, that was shot here in Malaysia.
Yes, that was here. It was a long time before I went to Hollywood or LA. But I went there for a summer program. I'd been co-producing M the Opera for Saida Rastam. And what we thought would take 6 months took a year and a half. And at the end of it, it's like, I need a break. And I got actually a study grant from Astro. and also something called Lancome Magic of the Arts grant through Kakisini. So I sort of combined that together and thought, okay, I'd spend a summer in Hollywood. And when I was there, people saying, oh my gosh, your look, your voice, your presence, and Indians are so in, you should try and get here. So I thought, okay, if I get an agent, then I might explore that. And I got an agent, and I went, oh, I have to do it now. So that's how I ended up there. And what became a year became 2 years, and everything takes a lot longer than you expect. But I started getting some guest roles, and I was in Plain Sight as a villain. And then I was in Rules of Engagement as Timmy's uncle who sells carpets in New York. So that was, and it's such a contrast because some shows have like no budget and people are just doing it on a shoestring, but for the love of it. And then you go into something like Rules of Engagement, which is on Sony Pictures on the lot, and it's very lavish buffets. There's just food everywhere all the time, and people are driving on the lot, and there's all these big stars next door and stuff like that.
And did you do movies as well while you were there?
Sorry?
Did you act in movies as well?
Yes, I did. Probably not like big blockbusters, but I think one of my most rewarding experiences was being the villain again. They seem to see me as villain. I read villain on the screen, according to Hollywood, in Princess of Mars. So Antonio Sabato Jr. was the hero, and I was the villain, and Tracy Lords was the Princess of Mars. So this is a company that does sort of quick, they shoot over like 2 weeks and create a film and sort of run on, and something similar to something big that Hollywood is doing. So at that time, they were going to do John Carter of Mars, so they did Princess of Mars here. And it was like shooting in the desert to make it look like, what would look like Mars. So outside LA. And I think what's nice about LA is there's so much
different scenery,
variety of topography. And you can be on the desert, you can be on Mars, you can be in lush, European temperate climates.
But that's not all. You also appeared in this particular series, the longest running soap opera, Bold and the Beautiful. I believe the title of your particular episode was called Muhammad. You appeared on that.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That was an episode where everything shifted to Dubai. So I was like the general manager of a hotel in Dubai where some of the lead characters were staying. And, and there's somebody drowns in the ocean and they're trying to find that person and things. So I'm the hotelier who sort of looks after all the guests and so on. So, and that was obviously sadly not shot in Dubai, but was shot on the lot in CBS, which is right in the heart of Hollywood, actually. And again, it's nice to drive in and you have your car park with your name on it and your lot, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in Hollywood.
That sounds so exciting. But, from Hollywood to Bollywood, can we hear a little bit about your upcoming production, Shakespeare
Yes,
Goes
I'm
to
dressed for Bollywood.
Yes.
And that's Shakespeare Goes Bollywood. And it's opening next week, so it's a very exciting time. We've been working on it for a few months, and now it's the final run-up. It's called Shakespeare Goes Bollywood. So I play the Indian pre-incarnation of Shakespeare.
Oh.
So Matthew
Interesting.
Coe and Fa Abdul, who are the script writers, come up with this really cool concept that they say, actually Shakespeare stories originated in India. And I was a storyteller that wrote the stories. And they're actually my stories of my family, my parents. And then I die and get reincarnated in England as William Shakespeare.
Wow.
That is very interesting.
That is,
Like I was, we were having a talk before the show, and I was saying there's so many Bollywood blockbusters like, Haider starring Shahid Kapoor and Ram Leela starring Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh, both of which were based on Shakespeare's work. One was Hamlet and the other was Romeo and Juliet. Why do you think, works of Shakespeare are so appealing to the Bollywood scene?
I think it's appealing to everybody. They're universal feelings and desires that people have, because the Japanese, like Kurosawa, loves Shakespeare. So some of his big films are based on Shakespeare stories. And, he's been translated in, I think, every language possible. But I think there's a nice connection with Bollywood because Bollywood is very epic on scale, and Shakespeare's, tragedies especially are epic stories. And I think Taming of the Shrew has been done Bollywood style as well. So, there's a nice connection.
Yeah, they're definitely stories that transcend time. But, Chacko, you've taken on the role as director, writer, and producer. Do you think it is important for an actor to kind of diversify themselves in this way?
Yes, I mean, I think, there's so many aspects of it. So it's good to explore other things. And as an actor, if you direct or if you write, you bring a different perspective to it because as an actor, you have to say the line. Sometimes writers say write it, but they don't quite know what it's going to sound like when you say it.
Yeah.
Or as a director also, so there are some directors known to be actors directors because they could really connect with the actor and tell him what to do or her what to do. Plus, I think it's, sometimes as actors, unless you're a mega star, you're very low down on the food chain and you don't have much say in the creation of the character, etc.
Yeah.
So I think if you write or direct and you can create work for yourself, but also you have a lot more say in how this thing is going to be eventually produced and presented.
Yes, exactly. Now, Chacko, you've done directing, producing, acting, writing, but we believe we'll also be hearing your voice in an upcoming documentary series. Could you tell us more about that?
Yes, well, it was something that's, I think, made in connection with Merdeka that's just happened, and Malaysia Day is coming up, and it's called Road to Nationhood by Rack Focus Films, and it's I narrate it, and it looks at Malaysia or Malaya from the time of the invasion of the Japanese up to Independence Day, 1957. And there's a lot of new footage, a lot of very cool interviews. It looks at, interestingly, one of the things it focuses on bin Jafar, and who might have been our first prime minister, except he insisted that UMNO bring in non-Malays into the party, and therefore he then was not allowed to stay on in UMNO or be the leader of UMNO, and then they found Tunku, and Tunku and his team came up with the idea of a coalition rather than a multiracial party. That's on the History Channel, 575 or 555 on Astro, and it'll be on this Saturday at 11, part 1, part 2 is at 12 noon. And again, the following Friday, the 16th, on Astro Prima and Maya at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m.
Fantastic way to celebrate Malaysia Day.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to seeing that. And another thing we're looking forward to is Shakespeare Goes Bollywood. Before we let you go, Chacko, can you just recap some of those details for us of where we can get tickets and when we can watch this?
Yes, Shakespeare Goes Bollywood is at Kailpak at Pentas 1, 15th to 18th next week. So it's from Thursday to Sunday, 8:30 p.m. every night, but Sunday it's at 3 p.m. as a matinee. It's a co-production, or it's presented by Actor Studio, Cine Theatre Rakyat. It's produced by Big Nose Theatre, which is Far Abdul's company. And that's, I think, one of the wonderful things about it is the choreography. There's lots of wonderful Bollywood dance sequences to some of your favorite Bollywood tunes, and Afam has choreographed it, and he's wonderful. There's a vibrant, enthusiastic young cast, apart from this fogey here.
Oh, come on, you're vibrant and enthusiastic.
Thanks.
Yes.
And it's a lovely blend of some of your favorite Shakespeare stories. So you have Romeo and Juliet blending with King Lear, blending with Merchant of Venice, and it's all this one epic story presented as a Bollywood musical.
Well, we're sold for sure.
Yes. We're so excited and because we will be actually
Vbuzz will be covering it on opening night.
Oh, how nice. Okay, so I'll see you next Thursday.
We'll see you there, and thank you so much for joining us on Vbuzz, Chacko.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.
Lovely to chat to you both.
All right. So that was very interesting. Once again, just to recap information, guys, Shakespeare Goes Bollywood is from the 15th to the 17th of September. It's happening at Kuala Lumpur Performing Arts Centre. You can get tickets from their website and enjoy the show.
Yeah, but stay tuned to Vbuzz, because up next we'll be speaking to Riot Jones on their big break in the industry. See you then.